morning, everyone. Once again, out of Montefiore Nyack Hospital, I'm Sandra Arevalo, and I'm the Director of Community Health and Wellness. Today, we're going to be talking in these community chats about domestic violence. And for that, of course, we have Amita please say it for me.
Banerjee.
Banerjee, thank you, from the Center for Safety and Change. This center, I have to say, it's crucial for the community, and they do so much work helping people around domestic violence, and they provide a lot of resources. So we're going to be learning more about Center for Safety of Change, and of course, learning more about domestic violence. So Anita, do you want to introduce yourself and let us know about your job and Center for Safety and Change?
Absolutely. I first of all would like to thank everyone who is on this platform for making time, because that's a big deal that, we are all working in the community together to create this mindfulness and awareness for a better tomorrow. So thank you for being here. And thank you to Sandra Arevalo and Montefiore for creating this amazing platform where we can reach out to so many people and make them mindful about the resources that we are offering. My name is Amita Banerjee. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm with the Center for Safety and Change. And my work over here is contained a lot with the prevention wing of Center for Safety and Change, and the manager community outreach and the liaison to the South Asian communities. But we work with each and every person who requires our service. So Center for Safety and Change is actually the only nonprofit in Rockland County that is offering services to victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, sexual harassment, human trafficking, and other crimes. We, of course, serve all people of every race and cultural backgrounds, and we make sure that every religion, every sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, and age, regardless of any immigration status, are taken care of. The most important is that we offer every service of ours 100% free and 100% confidential. I know that many of you who are on this platform would be knowing about the Center for Safety and Change, and some of you would know little and some of you would not. So I'll give a little history about the Center for Safety and Change. So on October 5th, 1979, we started as what used to be called then as the Rockland Family Shelter. A lot of people knew us as Rockland Family Shelter. This whole process started in 1976, where a few like-minded and empowered women got together to ensure that anybody who's taking that brave step to come out of an abusive relationship is actually provided safety planning by giving them a space. And that, of course, kept getting larger and larger because they were working out of a church, and the support group, which used to be called the Battered Women's Support Group then, kept getting larger. And so they had to move to a bigger church. And finally, in 1979, it became possible because of so much of support. And since it became so popular to have the family shelter, the Rockland Family Shelter. The Rockland Family Shelter, since then, has, our phones have been ringing nonstop, and we have been providing safety to so many people. We were at that time and continue to be supported by the Dominican Sisters, the Probation Department, the Good Samaritan Hospital, and the Jewish Women International. And it was, some of them are still our board members and also part of our organization. Since then, we continued to work, adding several services to our to Center for Safety and Change to support the victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. And other services have really grown. The most important thing that we offer is the hotline, which is 24 hours, 365 days, nonstop. And the amazing part of our hotline is that there's always a live person on the other side. And the live person is a part of our what we call as the support staff, and they're trained advocates. So whenever anybody calls, could be a very small question, a simple thing, could be a very complex, complicated matter, might require immediate emergency attention, the caller is attended to and made sure that is connected to the right resource. We all know that, crime happens because sometimes there is so much loss of time. But at Center for Safety and Change, there's no time lost. As soon as there is a call, we make sure that that call is attended to. We also have a 24 hours text line, and all of us know that when anybody who's going through any kind of abuse or victimization, um, the the victim might find it very difficult to find an opportunity to make a phone call, a safe place, a, a privacy or a confidential a moment where they can make a call. So we also have a text service, and that's also 24 hours. Within 20 to 30 minutes, if any text is sent, we make sure that the text is attended to, and we also have a web chat. So if there's any situation where the victim is unable to call or it's unable to send a text, there can also be a web chat, and all these three services are available 24/7. Sandra, I'll be grateful if you can share the service sheet with all of them so that they have the number. The number is very handy, 845-634-3344. This is a number which can be a great resource not only for individuals, but for people to share. Yes, for people to share with their families, with their friends, so that they keep that as a resource. So this is part of the support staff that we have. What we have in our services, one is the prevention wing and other is the intervention wing. So in the intervention wing, it is the hotline, and the hotline, when the call comes, it goes to what we call as the CAS department. CAS department is the Comprehensive Advocacy Support Services. So there are trained advocates who can speak different languages. They're translators. People can speak English, Spanish, Creole, Yiddish, and of course some South Asian languages also, like Hindi, Bengali, Urdu. These languages are offered so that there is no limitation, there are no constraints. Their language can become a huge barrier when it comes to anybody wanting to express themselves or to talk about the victimization or the abuse that they're going through. So there's no language constraint. Once the advocates actually take the call, then they take all the information, all the details, they make sure that it is processed properly, and then it is referred to the right resource. Whatever is required at that time for the victim or is done through the CAS department. So we have the 24 hours residential service, which is, the family shelter, which is at an undisclosed address. And the reason why it is at an undisclosed address is obvious, because we want to make sure that the safety planning is perfect for the victim, their family, for the children, for the elders. So once you're at the residential service, then of course, there are 16 beds over there. It's a very nurturing environment. There is food. It's clean. There is laundry. There is kosher food. It's a community living. There are cooking, there are chores, there are 24 hours advocacy available over there, recreational and therapeutic, crafts and arts for healing for the children's program. It is a very nurturing, violence-free environment. And we make sure that, once the victim gets stable, then there are transitional help also. So whether there is transportation required, whether there's court accompaniment required, whether there is any kind of documentation that needs to be assessed or to be filled out, we make sure that all that support is provided to the victim. At the same time, once the victim is ready to leave the residential service, and so there is total aftercare. It's not that Center for Safety and Change just abruptly lets the victim go or the survivor go. We make sure that there is aftercare, there is monthly check-ins, there are food packages, there is mediating with the landlords just in case they need assistance in finding housing, as well as negotiating, and then if they require any transportation assistance, we make sure that that is provided too. So uh, in the once if they need any legal services, we have a very you know a legal department which has attorneys, which has paralegal, which has advocates. So if they require any family court assistance, any issues with immigration, any issues with human trafficking, we give 100% support. And as I said before too, that every service of ours is free, 100% free and 100% confidential. So whether there is guidance required or, any documentation work, or there is consultation, or they want direct representation for victims, where there's domestic violence and abuse, that is all available at the Center for Safety and Change. We also work, as I said before, with that, we work with human trafficking. So when we hear this term human trafficking, sometimes people think that it is happening somewhere elsewhere, outside, in a different part of the world. But that's really not the reality. The reality is that human trafficking is very much happening here, in the US, and very much in Rockland. It's right next door. So, whether it is malls or movie theaters or restaurants or parking lots, it's very much rampant in Rockland County. So we and we have noticed with our experience that the children and the youth are more vulnerable, and that's also because of the influence of the cyber. The internet has become so unsafe that they can easily get trapped. They get trapped by force, sometimes fraud, coercion, and they're forced into commercial sex and labor. So we have our networking very strong with the district attorney's office. We have criminal justice support. We have safety planning. We have counseling. We have referrals. All of that is part of our work. We have the task force, which is very active, and we do a lot of work in the human trafficking area. We also have a program which is called a unique program, which is called the Pet Safety Program, which is called PAWS. And under the Pet Safety Program, because statistics say that roughly about 1 million pets are injured or killed in the US every year due to domestic violence. And so not only children and family are used to create that fear, but pets are very much used to create that fear. And we have noticed that sometimes the victim would actually very much delay their process of coming out of an abusive relationship, because the pets are being so we have a pet safety program. again at an undisclosed location. So we make sure that the pets are kept safe till such time that the victim is ready to take care of the pets. So that with a free mind, the victim can take that brave step of stepping out or coming out of that abusive relationship. Um, we have a children and youth service that is and we involve a lot of creative arts and activities in that to make sure that the children are healed and they are given a safe space, and we allow them in their own experience, within their experience, to create that uh, healing process. And we use counseling, group counseling, a lot of games and initiatives, referrals, transportation. Whenever transportation is required, we make sure that the taxi service is provided, and parent information and guidance is very much involved in this. So the children and the youth services are very, very popular. A lot of people in the community take advantage of that. We have a unique program, which is very unique to the Center for Safety and Change, and that is the SAFE program, which is called the Sexual Assault Forensic Examiners Program. And we must thank Montefiore for giving us a lot of support. And this was launched in 2003. In that time, it was called the Nyack Hospital. And in 2004, it was launched in Good Sam. So anybody who is 12 years and above, if there's any sexual assault or rape, it is mandatory for the hospitals to give Center for Safety and Change a call, and a very highly trained safe nurse will get there at the earliest, and a crisis counselor, rape crisis counselor. And they will make sure that the victim is taken care of. And also, we make sure that for 20 years, each and every evidence is kept safe. Because, sometimes in that moment, they are not able to take a decision or take a stand or take any action. But the Center for Safety and Change makes sure that every evidence and information is kept safe for 20 years. So whenever the victim or the family is ready, we make sure that that is available to them. The nurses are specially trained, and they are very compassionate, and they do non-judgmental forensic exam, and that is available again 24 hours a day, free of cost. They make sure that medical services, information, medication, care, and everything is provided to the victim. The victim can make a choice of not wanting to speak to law enforcement or to the families. And the victim can make a choice of just wanting to talk to the Center for Safety and Change, the safe nurse and the counselor. So we make sure that everything is done very respectfully, and the injuries and evidences are also documented very respectfully. And we also testify in the criminal court, and make sure that the victim is believed. Because when it comes to the victim, it is very important. At Center for Safety and Change, we absolutely reinforce this all the time, that the victim should always be believed, because there is a blame game and blame shifting which goes on, that makes the victim even feel more vulnerable at that point. We also conducted training for the safe nurses, and I'm going to talk about that later in our prevention program, which is pretty much the. If there are any questions, I would be very happy to address them as and when once we are done with this. But I know that this is a lot of information, so coming from the intervention wing, now I will talk a little about our prevention wing. So in our part of our prevention wing, that's where I am part of, and it's called the TOES department. TOES department stands for Training, Outreach, Education, and Social Change. So we call it the TOES department because all of us are actually always on our toes. And we go out into the community. So the first thing is community outreach, which pretty much what I'm doing right now. I make sure that I get in touch with, the organizations, attend all the events, the fairs, all the cultural activities, make sure that our presence is there through tabling. We are there in malls, we are there in shopping complexes, we are there in libraries. So we put up all our, services in most places so that doctors' offices, so that people are aware about the resources that we offer. So that's part of the community outreach, which is then we have our work with the college campuses. Now, the work at the college campus is where we have the initiative and the representation, where our college campus coordinator will be actually also having office hours. So it's very important, and the coordinator works very closely with the Title IX coordinator in the campus and makes sure that the students are taken care of. So their office hours, during office hours, students come and they have someone over there in the campus to talk to them or take care of whatever situation that they may be going. And we work with all campuses. We are at the Rockland Community College. We are at the St. Thomas Aquinas Tech. We are at Dominican University. So at all the three campuses, we have representation. The next program that we have is for the schools. So we have a youth education coordinator who will be going into middle school and high school. For the middle schools, we work with programs which is called the Healthy Relationship. So we make sure that the youth and the young people get more and more mindful as to what are the signs, what are the signs of, what are the green flags, what are the yellow flags, what are the red flags, how will they be able to understand that someone is being abusive, because it's so subtle sometimes. And as the statistics say that 85% of the times any kind of abuse and assault is done by someone who is known to the victim. So it's very difficult sometimes to even understand the signs. So we make sure that, the children get more mindful about it. So we have the middle school program, we have the high school program, and in the high schools, we take a training which is mandated by all the high schools, and we are the experts in that. It's called the Teen Dating Violence Prevention Program, TDVPP. And in that, there are three segments. The three segments are where we make sure that they get to understand as to what the teen dating violence is, and then we make them mindful about what is consent, because that's a big piece that the young people should know, that how powerful is their no and how powerful is their yes. So we make them understand as to how they can navigate through consent to create healthy relationships. And then we also have the bystander intervention. So these three segments are offered, and human trafficking is also offered to the high schoolers. For the high schoolers, we also have an amazing training program, which is called the SEDA, which is called the Sexual Assault, the Student Activists for Ending Dating Abuse. Student Activists Ending Dating Abuse. In this, it is a 5-day program, which we do at the Palisades Mall from 8:30 a.m. to about 4:30 in the evening. Free breakfast and free lunch is provided. We offer a stipend of $50 to the students. We offer free transportation to the students, and we make sure that they get to understand all the aspects of oppression. So whether it is racism, whether it's classism, whether it's ageism, adultism, we make sure that they understand, but there's a lot of fun activities also. There's serious learning, but we also make sure that there is a lot of music, crafts, art, and outdoor activities so that they can be very much involved. So students from all different schools get together for the SEDA program. We are, you know, as an organization, providing different kinds of training. As I said, we also have a training for the rape crisis counselor, which is conducted all through the Hudson Valley. And so people can register for that and they can get trained as rape crisis nurses. Um, you know, I pretty much feel that I have covered the prevention and the intervention program, but I would like to ask if there are any questions. And I also would like to add over here that, we at Center for Safety and Change are committed to growing as an anti-racist, anti-oppression organization. So we offer, again, another very powerful 2-day program, which is called Getting to the Root. And I think that, anyone and everyone should actually attend that training to shift their lens, to understand that how all people should be incorporated in the life and not be excluded to have a perfect, harmonious environment. So we also have a part of our prevention wing, which is the social justice wing. And Nikki Hines is our director of social change and racial justice, and she works very closely with Phyllis Frank, who is our chief program officer, and they both conduct the program called Getting to the Root with other trainers, very highly, learned trainers, and they continue this work by continuing the conversation online 3 days in a week, where the community can actually get together and they make sure that people don't only just finish off with getting to the root, but they also get to understand that how they can continue this work and integrate it into their day-to-day life. And our CEO is Elizabeth Santiago, and she has been our leader and our sort of part of the vision of creating a world in which all people are free from oppression and violence. And she carries on this mission with this awesome team. Center for Safety and Change, I think, is a very awesome, dedicated team to create a safe world for everyone. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'd be very happy to.
Thank you, Amira. I think it's great to know everything that you do. Somehow I knew about all the programs that you were mentioning. I just didn't know that they all were coming out of Center for Safety and Change. I thought it was like different agencies working on that. It's amazing because you don't have a lot of this stuff. It's not a huge organization, and however, you guys are doing so much. So, I'm very appreciative of all the work that you do. And yes, at this point, we would like to invite all of our attendees to just type your questions or type your comments and see if we can get you some of the answers. I do have questions as usual. I feel that a lot of the situation with domestic violence and a huge problem is that people get very scared, right? And for example, we have undocumented immigrants that are scared of speaking up because people know that when there is a domestic violence issue, the police needs to get involved. And you said that a few times. So what do we need to teach people to let them know not to be scared and find the help that you need and reach out either to center of safety or the hospital or whomever is there to help you. I want people to know that they're gonna be safe. So, Amira, what do you have to say to that?
So, Sandra, that's our primary mission, right? To safety planning. And we also understand this that everyone's situation is different and everyone's situation is unique. So, no safety planning can be like, 100% for every. It kind of navigates around what their situation is. So we make sure that whenever somebody, that's the reason that if there is anybody who has got any immigration status issues, that person should be very, very sure that when they call Center for Safety and Change, the legal department will take care of that aspect. They don't become vulnerable because it is not because that you are being abused, you need to get exposed. It doesn't work like that. Our legal department is very competent and they make sure that the victim is kept safe.
Mm-hmm. And you were also talking about human trafficking, and that also enters into this spectrum of having police involved in an investigation and all of that. And I know that there are a lot of people who are threatened if they are in a human trafficking situation, and if they try to talk to anyone, it's even worse for them, right? It makes their situation
Absolutely.
worse. How do we, as the general public, recognize a victim of human trafficking so that we can do something to help these victims?
So that's very tricky, Sandra, because the perpetrator actually keeps the victims so much tight under their wings,
Threatened. Yeah.
and they are threatened drastically too. So there's a lot of fear involved over there. But whenever the victim takes a stand and seeks help, it is at that point of time that we really need to make sure. Why do we want people to have our number as a resource? Because we work very closely with the law enforcement and the district attorney's office. So if there is any case of human trafficking, we exactly know that, how the safety planning needs to be done. And we will make sure that the victim gets safe. But that's the thing that, if you know the number, keep it handy so that you can not only call but also pass it on to the victim and make sure that whenever the time permits, the victim can make a phone call. So as soon as they call us, we'll make sure that we take the right action.
Yeah. Amira, this is just an idea. I'm not sure if Center for Safety and Change has something like that. But sometimes it's easier for us to remember numbers like 911, 311, 411. Is there a number like that for Center of Safety and Change, or maybe
No.
the police department, that it's specific for domestic or any violence?
I know that there is a domestic violence hotline number, which is pretty much there on the online too. But for us, it is the 634-3344. If you call that number, and then we'll be able to.
You said it's 634
3344 845-634-3344.
Okay. Yeah, it's not that difficult to remember, so that's a good thing. Let's talk a little bit about the physical exam that you were talking about. So once we identify a victim, they need to come to the hospital, to the emergency room to have a physical exam done. And, they use that as evidence for the case. Do these victims also get tested for HIV and sexual transmissible diseases?
Yes.
Okay. And
they are.
If they test positive, what happens after that? What if they don't have insurance, for example? Are they going to get a big bill in the mail for the exam, for the treatments?
Sandra, I will frankly tell you that I don't have the right answer for this, but I can have I can get back to you. I will let you know because this is a good question. But as far as I know, that this service is 100% free, because Center for Safety and Change connects the victim to the services where all bills are paid. There is no bill that actually goes to the victim. Anything related to HIV, I'm not sure about that. But when it comes to the sexual assault and the rape, um, no charges are given to the victim at all.
Mhm,
Every charge is paid for.
mhm.
It's absolutely 100% free. All the investigation, um, the evidence collection, the medical help, the medical care, the documentation, any medicines that are needed, medicines that are required even for aftercare, each and everything is free of cost. The only part that I'm not too sure about is the HIV part,
Okay.
which obviously entails, as you know, a different kind of intervention and service and medical prescriptions. So I'm not sure about that, but certainly for anything to do with the sexual assault, anything to do with the rape, is 100% covered and is free.
Mhm. Okay, well, the good news, I guess, is that if you happen to test positive for HIV, there is an insurance that you can have that provides 100% coverage for everything that is HIV treatments and all of that. So I'm just realizing that maybe all those patients can just access that type of insurance, which is a
Indeed,
good thing, you know?
yes. And the rest of the cost is all covered.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the victim doesn't have to pay anything. There are
Mhm.
no out-of-pocket expenses. Even in fact, after that, every time there is testimony or court requirements or transportation, court accompaniment, everything is free.
Yeah. Okay. So the legal services are free as well, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, I know that Center for Safety has lawyers actually that work
Yes, yes.
in
We have
staff.
a very in-staff. We have our in-staff legal department.
Mhm.
Whether attorneys, advocates, paralegal, and they work, very hard to make sure that every client, the when we do the safety planning, a part of our work is also we this understanding that when the victim is going through this process of, the first thing that the perpetrator will always do is to take away the financial freedom. So the victim actually does not have very often any financial freedom. So that's the reason why Center for Safety and Change makes sure that all services that we provide is free. So, this is part of us providing that step for towards the safety planning and support the victim or the survivor to take that brave step. That's a moment. Statistics say that about it takes about 8 times for someone to come out of an abusive relationship. Imagine that, if someone is in an abusive relationship, who would want to be in that situation? But it takes 8 times because there's so many things that are related to it. Whether it is fear, whether it is insecurity, whether it is the inability, whether it is, the feeling that, where will I go? What will I do? So all of that taken care of, Center for Safety wants to make sure that all services are free. There is a family shelter, the pets are taken care of, there is a legal department, there is transportation provided, there is counseling provided, there is healing provided, so that it is like one huge big umbrella to make sure that the victim and the survivors are kept safe and they are able to take that turn in life to start something new.
Yeah, and I think it's important, Tamira, that people know that once you reach out to Center for Safety, and you're put in a domestic violence shelter, your location, your information, and everything is kept strictly confidential. Like nobody will know where you are. And as a matter of fact, you're told not to engage in conversations with even people that you know or something until the case is resolved, because, you know, especially you want to make sure that people or bad people don't get in touch and keep threatening you, or, you know, things
Mm.
like that. So I think it's important that people know that, you know, you're very, very safe if you decide to seek help from a domestic violence relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
You,
And I,
you know, yes, please go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, no, that's because, children are also involved.
Mhm.
And so it becomes very important to keep everything very, very safe, because also statistics have clearly indicated that when the victim takes that step to come out of the abusive relationship, the victim is the most vulnerable. Anything can happen at that time. Most of the homicides actually occur at that time. So we need to make sure that, the victim is 100% safe.
Mhm. And at the same time, it's like somehow you're running away, right? And you're leaving everything, you're leaving your life behind, you're leaving your home, you're leaving, and that's another reason why Center for Safety and Change has also the PETS program, the POS
Yeah.
program, because I mean, pets become members of the family. They
Oh,
are another child, like they're the baby of the house, no matter
yeah.
how big. So some people really feel very vulnerable and sad to have to leave their pets behind. And, you know, when you seek help in the Center for Safety and Change, you don't need to leave your pet behind. Like you can bring
Mm.
your pet with you, and they're going to
Yes.
help you take care of your pet and your kids and everyone, you know. So it's okay to lose that fear, because you're really going to start a new and a better life, as
Yes.
opposed to continuing being in an abusive relationship.
And uh, in our aftercare, and also for creating stability, um, we also have a volunteer program, which is volunteering, because people don't know how to spend their time. They sometimes a process of healing is that they are idle, and so we have a volunteer program. We have a volunteer coordinator who's dedicated to make sure that people can get, and they get 100% training. They get trained in all the different departments of Center for Safety and Change. So they can come and do volunteering hours with Center for Safety and Change. We also have coordinators, who are dedicated to communities and cultures. Like, for example, I'm the liaison to the South Asian communities also. So I make sure that, people are, culturally or language-wise kept. We have someone who is for the Latine and the Latine communities. We have someone for the Jewish communities. So we make sure that, we have a representation for the Black community. So we are making sure that whatever may be your ethnicity, your language, your race, your color, everyone is kept under that umbrella of uh, safety and a change for a better tomorrow.
Mhm. And we're reaching the end of this community chat, Samira, but I already have like two ideas that I think I would like to work on for coming community chats. And one is the types of domestic violence, because people always think that, you know, if I see a bruise, that's domestic violence, but there are so many types of domestic violence, and they're not all physical and visible, and they can be even more dangerous than the physical abuse. So maybe we can work on that one
Absolutely.
for the
We will.
next time. And another one is the idea of the program that you have for the adolescents, the dating abuse,
Yeah.
like how we as parents can teach children what a healthy relationship is, and what's not healthy. I think that, but by myself, I never remember that nobody ever told me that. It's like, okay, the punch on the face, that's it, that's bad.
Yes.
But then again, it's like, it's, I think it's important that we start raising our future generations, learning the difference between a healthy relationship and a more violent relationship. And especially, there are many cultural differences about, what a marriage should look like, or a relationship between a couple. And even if it's same sex, different sex, doesn't matter. I think that it's important that, we start educating our future generations, because, what could be better than to eradicate domestic violence one day,
Yes.
but that can only happen through education.
True. And making the youth and the children more aware. That's the key. They are the ones who are going to actually take this torch forward. That's why we do the SEDA program, the Student Activists to End Dating Abuse, for them to go through all the isms to make sure that they get aware that where does the seed of oppression, suppression really start from. And we tell children stranger danger, right? We constantly keep telling our children that, oh, don't talk to strangers, don't. But the thing is that statistics say that most of the abuse and the assault and everything is from people who are known to them. So it's not about just danger, but it's about the known people. So it's important for them to know what the yellow flags are. If they get to know the indications of yellow flags, then they won't go into the red flags, because emotional abuse is something that can scar the person's journey for the entire life.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that just not only physical abuse, but emotional abuse, financial abuse, everything they should be aware of, so that they can say that, no, I'm saying no to this. And their no is, they should know their, what we call their sexual rights, because their no is very powerful. They should know that if it's a no, then that means it is a no.
Exactly. So as you can see, dear attendees, we have a lot to talk about when it comes to domestic violence, but I'm going to take Amira to work on these other two domestic violence community chats so that we can bring you even more information. But now you know about the Center for Safety and Change. You know the number, and it's going to be in the recording as well. So I invite you to really write down that number. Make sure we give these people business, and it's not a business, it's a mission. Okay, so let's help people out there. If people don't know about Center for Safety, let's make them known. And we'll continue the conversation. We have a lot to do in this community and every community, and we have a lot to talk about and a lot to educate about. So thank you, Amira, for being here.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for this amazing platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for, explaining all these programs. It's really interesting how many things you have to do. And to all of our attendees, I will see you next week. Next week is Finding Calm Amid Chaos. It sounded like cows, but no, it's not cows, it's cows, right? We are going to talk about stress management and stress reduction techniques. So
amazing.
Sounds interesting. Yes. So please join us next week. Stress reduction. That sounds kind of cool. And thank you for joining us today. See you next week.
You.
Thank you, Amira.
Thank
nice
you.
talking to you.
Thank you, all of you.
Bye.